It is 7:02. Officially call to order the Dayton Zoning Board of Appeals regular meeting, public hearing, Tuesday, July 25th, Old Town Hall, Somerset Ave. This meeting is being video and audio recorded for cable broadcast. This agenda is subject to revisions and additions up until the meeting time, and the Zoom link is on the agenda. Meeting ID is 744-646-2815. Passcode is 651342, and the phone number to dial in from Zoom is 305-224-1968. So if we could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, so the first thing we need to do is to confirm the next meeting date, which will be August 22nd. Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
Yes. And does that work for both of the agenda items today, if we need to continue your hearings to those dates? The August 22nd, would that work if we need to? All right. So we'll go right down to the first business, so the public hearing for Ferrer Development Group, LLC, 907 Center Street, map 13, lot 51, special permit application. Attorney Fredericks, whenever you are ready.
Good evening again.
Thank you.
For the day. So when we were last here, we were discussing this project. I don't know that you guys need another background in the project. It's
No, that's
Dayton
okay.
Nursing Home. Yeah, we're trying to convert it into apartments. We did update the plans that we submitted. I'm just going to kind of briefly summarize what the updates were. First, on one of the borders of the property, we did a mock so you could see that there were trees that were going to stay in concert with one of the abutters. That was just on the pictures here.
Oh, okay.
The other is that the fence, and again,
Yes.
we've shown the
I
fence.
see that, yep.
So again, just trying to take into account all of the abutter input. On the plans, we did change the bedrooms so that now reflects all one bedrooms. We also delineated the two ADA compliant units as requested by Mr. Gale. So really what we were able to do in the plan really kind of delineates the parking, move to the back. And again, that's in concert with what the abutters thought was the best for the project. And again, we also put some of the greenery in more or less what we were planning on as far as the new version of the front of the project, if you will, because right now it's all paved.
These are fantastic. One thing that we just did notice is that on the proposed second floor, actually I had a question and something to point out, is that one of the rooms for Unit 9 is not labeled bedroom. It's just that if you have the dimensions of the room, but it just, there's no.
Okay.
And then my question was the hallway, like, for lack of a better term for right now, the hallway between the stairs in the rear and the actual apartment. I'm assuming that's just going to be a vacant hallway, correct?
Mr. Burrow, he's nodding yes.
My one concern or thought with that is, I know with the structure of the building, it's almost like I have to, you're trying to, not do too much work to the building itself. So what do you do with that space? You can't put the bedroom there. It's too, living room there. It's too narrow. My only concern is that with two doors, with a door separating that from the stairwell, what's to stop the applicant or the resident, whatever, of the Unit 9 using that space?
So the ultimate responsibility is on Mr. Ferrera and his management of the property. Again, in the background, we are proposing a professionally managed property. This isn't just gonna be one landlord trying to manage it, and that whenever he's by, there's going to be an ongoing professional management of the property. So anything that you write up as far as terms of leases and things like that are gonna state where they have access, where they have the right to use, that sort of thing.
Is there a reason why there's a door separating it from the stairwell? And like, as opposed to just making that one big hallway? Yeah, if you want to come see, I was. So I'm referring to unit 9 up here. So if this is the door,
So this is,
like,
this is actually totally limited, this area here. When we basically revised it, yes, there was a stairway gate going upstairs.
yeah.
So this area is actually like a low ceiling, it was just storage before. So that area is totally eliminated.
Oh.
It's not even full, I think that's why it's not labeled, so. This will-
Okay.
This will be unit 9, and this will probably be just right across, maybe like a little storage area, so this is gonna be eliminated.
Okay. That's.
Yeah, because that's about, that's almost like a cross.
Seeing it unlabeled, I knew it wasn't part of the unit, but then I was like, what is it? But that's fine. That's.
Thank you.
Clears up
I didn't
some
pick that up
questions
either.
on that one.
Yep.
My other thought to Unit 10, being how it's going to be probably a coveted unit because it's kind of separated from everything else. And I know these are just mock-up drawings, but the shrubbery in front of Unit 10, I would assume there was going to be a landscaping company that's going to come and take care of the property. But now, what is stopping the Unit 10 from, I'm going to rip those out and put in a brick patio and a lawn chair, or using the outside of that, because it can almost be like, hey, this is kind of my own space now. I mean, everyone's own space, but I just was wondering if,
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things. First of all, economics. A tenant's not gonna go spend that kind of money to build a patio and they're not gonna live.
well, I guess I mean a pet
And that's-
specifically,
that's
but
the-
like, what's stopping him from cosmetically doing what he wants to the outside of his area?
And that goes back to the professional management side of things.
Okay.
Again, it's not one guy renting out a triple decker here. It's going to be a part in a portfolio, and that's and I think we kind of went off the map on some of the things, but that's what I was really trying to drive at the beginning in introducing who Mr. Ferrera was, his quote-unquote team. He has people who work for him on an ongoing, regular basis that are his people. So there is going to be the maintenance and upkeep on the property by him through his employees. He has basically a maintenance staff. So it's not we're a
Okay.
situation where no one's there. People are going
Okay.
to be constantly going to the property to perform the ordinary maintenance and to make sure that sort of stuff stays the way it should.
Okay. That's good to know. And the parking that you have there now, I assume, I know where the last meeting we talked about possibilities of like, would it be in the front, would it be here? Is this what your final proposal is, or just?
It was clearly the consensus of the neighborhood
Okay.
that they would prefer the parking there.
Okay.
I mean, I certainly would take your input on this, but
I didn't care.
hear
I mean, not that I
anybody-
didn't care, but it was.
You almost don't do that. This isn't where Steve.
It was more. I didn't have a preference either way. It's not. I'm not in the butter. So
Yeah, no,
I just,
but that I took in, and I mean, I think the overwhelming favorite was to move it behind the building, because then you wouldn't have that as an intrusion into the other neighbors. I mean, I can give you for an example in this situation, and Mr. Veronese wasn't here, but he lives across the street. So that he wasn't here doesn't mean that we're still not considering
Oh,
what the
no, I
impacts
know.
to his property would be. So it's still better behind the building to my eye.
I took a drive down. I didn't know how big it was.
Yeah.
I never realized it. The parking that you have, that I assume that won't encroach onto the leaching field.
It's right now.
It's on the site plan as
Yeah.
well. I think the very last page, the second last page, that's the.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So it's a big area, so the septic
Yeah.
tanks,
It's
you can drive a Mack truck over them, and heavy duty is 20,000 gallons in tanks, and it'll be before the leaching field, obviously, so.
Wow. I just didn't realize how. God, there's so much land back
it's
there.
such a and that's the thing is the property's such an large property.
It is, yeah.
Trying to put it to use is what I mean. That's ultimately to the town's good, to the abutters' good, to the owner's good. I think it's just a matter of trying to come up with a project that makes the most sense.
I mean, as a voting member, even if I wasn't, I think this is the best use for this property. I mean, there's not much more that I think, and I think of the possible applicants that could have proposed a project like this, as of right now, feel very comfortable with who we have taking care of this, because this could have gone, or could go in a completely different direction.
Of course.
So, I think that's how I feel so far, but I guess I want to see if the other voting members have any questions. Greg, are you voting on this one?
I don't remember if I'm a voting member or not.
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Zach, Karen, Greg Logan, and Jonathan Gale.
Just had a couple of stupid little questions in regards
Sure.
to this. So dumpster corral, I think is gonna be in the back, far left corner, is gonna be a PVC fence with a gate on it. So we just wanna make sure when, the guys come to dumpster, they're not doing it at 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, we don't need that, nor does your tenants. But I've had that happen in different areas, and we did talk about illumination of lighting, not direct lighting, just make sure that that's all inclusive.
I mean, even we have a picture here. of what
I
we
see how it
imagine.
looks. It looks
Yeah,
nice.
it's a downlighting situation where we're not trying to illuminate the front of the building or.
So you're gonna
try to put it
strip
out.
all the vinyl off and redo the vinyl to look like a cedar impression type looking?
And a couple of shed dorms and
Saw that, that looks nice.
petitions, but just to kind of make it very appealing.
So Zach hit on a couple of things in regards to the hallways and the plan that you had designed on the, second floor, that common area. You can see the way the pitch of the roof is, it's definitely low. We were just concerned that that could be like a storage unit, large storage unit. Did we talk about storage last time we were here in regards to where you're gonna have all, it's down in the basement?
Full basement. so we can
Storage.
additional, you know,
Okay.
cubicles, whatever.
This building's sprinkled or not sprinkled? It is
It
sprinkled.
was sprinkled, okay.
Yes.
And,
Including the basement sprinkled as well.
sure.
I know, I think, it's not to get off topic, but I didn't realize that with the library, the new one down here, the basement won't be, so they won't have access to it, so
I
it's,
know, it's crazy. And I'm good at this time, that's pretty much what I got right at the
I
moment.
could just pick up on a couple things, because I know there was a comment from the fire chief on this. And I also know that the zoning enforcement officer, the building inspector's up.
sure, sorry.
Should read that into the minutes.
Yeah, yes, yeah, because I wanted to pick up on that point that you just
Yeah.
made.
So this is from, an email was sent from Kerry to the fire chief, just asking for him to review it and provide any feedback, and he did send some. So this was Tuesday, July 11th. And he said, Kerry, the concerns I have for the property are in relation to the location of the garage, which is proposed as a 2-bedroom apartment, and how close it is to the main structure. The garage has no fire detection system or fire suppression system that I'm aware of. Also, the proposed 2-bedroom apartment in the garage only showed one means of egress. Access to these structures are not a concern. So if you want to address whatever he had.
Well, it flows, actually, if you want to read the second from the zoning enforcement officer, because really one has to do with the other, and that's where I was taking the comment.
Okay. So this is dated July 24th. This is from Jim Aguirre, the building commissioner. He just said, as you are aware, this property has been vacant for an extended period of time. It is unfortunate that it has remained unoccupied and the market has not enabled repurposing of said structures in the current configuration. I feel that the proposed application before you will allow this property to meet the housing challenges of Dayton and ensure the long-term viability of this building. Upon a favorable act of this board, the fire chief and I have discussed code compliancy items that will be addressed during the construction permit application process.
So I'm just picking up on the last piece, because I do want to go back and address the first piece right now.
Sure.
I know there's been discussions, and we have had those internally as well, that if there's needs to be a fire escape or what have you, that would all be dealt with during the building permit phase of it, as well as any fire suppression. That's all ultimately building permit issues more than zoning issues. But we're more than happy to work with them. Obviously, we have to
have
get
to
a
anyway,
building
yeah,
permit,
right.
So it's, just because he had brought up the sprinkled nature of the structure, the main structure itself is not an issue. If we need to do anything on the garage, we'll make sure it's compliant, was really just the point I wanted to make, picking up on Greg's. It was a long way around, but we got back there.
That's the way I feel with a lot of board input or feedback, where people say things like, oh, well, I want to make sure, put a condition here where you have to have handicap. Well, you have to have it, whether we have condition or not. So stuff like that, it's like, well, it wouldn't get, and it wouldn't, even if we say yes, at some point they'll say, well, you can't do it until X, Y, and Z is done anyway. So, was there? You said you wanted to get to another thing with the.
Well, I
fire?
had another point to just address on the zoning. I know I had sent Marguerite Mitchell, your counsel, a legal position paper on more or less where I thought the map of this could go. And I mean, I'm picking up on, and I'll come back to finish with that, but the ultimate issue, I think, is what Mr. Aguirre is raising here, which is the property's use. I mean, I'm glad you went there. If you see it, what else are we gonna do with it? And
Not
that
much.
ultimately comes the point. And there's also a second piece that I did a little diving on. There's the multifamily zoning requirement stuff that's coming out of the MBTA now. And
Yeah.
I looked at the map. It's amazing Dayton's not in it.
I
It's
know.
the only town.
I know how that happened, but yeah.
But I would counsel this board that I can't imagine that that's gonna stand very long.
No, I wouldn't think so either.
So you're ultimately gonna be in a situation where you're gonna get pulled in, and you're gonna have to generate some, because what it is we want apartments. So ultimately, this town is gonna face a situation where apartments are going to be required, whether it be now, in the future, and I'm, to be very clear, it doesn't apply to you right now, I don't think, as how they have the map, but God only knows what comes next.
It's funny you say that, because when I was discussing this case with the former chairman of this board and current selectman, also my father, and talking about the 40B question for this, and he brought up a point that I was not aware of, was that by default, apartments count towards your 40B stock. Which, in the last meeting, when someone asked about that, are these going to be 40B? Or will this help towards our percentage? We said no, because they weren't affordable units. I did not realize at the time
You're
that
reading my mind.
by default they are, so that will help us reach our percentage.
Right.
So, which is good.
And that was my next point that I was gonna make as well, because I went back and took a look at that, I just took a note on that, and, I mean, obviously, I appeared before this board on a large apartment complex. I knew all the units counted towards the 40B number. What I wasn't clear is, because it was a 40B application, whether or not that affected it. And it does not. So, again, this development as proposed is truly in synergy with the town's best interest for what I think is coming down for the multifamily zoning. I mean, certainly, you guys have got to be middle into that now. And then also, as far as the 40B issue, and then you get to, what's really best for the neighborhood and the abutters. And again, the record, as far as I can see it, is absent of anybody who's standing on their soapbox saying, please don't put this in.
Right.
So I ultimately think we have a situation here where this project makes sense for everyone.
I personally think so, definitely. And just for the record, for anyone who is confused if anything what I was saying about this counting for the 40B, so it's not like any of the units, okay, we have to designate 2 units to be affordable. That's not the case. It's just that these units by default are going to count towards that percentage for the town to hit that mark. So it's not like, okay, now we have to designate 2 units that are going to be affordable. No, you can do the same thing he wants with the prices of the units, but it will, regardless, they will all count towards the 40B percentage, which we really need to make sure that we're doing. And then, John, as a voting member, do you have any other questions?
No, actually, I was going to ask questions about the fire suppression and the turnout radius for fire department, but that's been answered. So I think that I'm good at this point.
Okay. Do any other members of the board have any questions?
I have one.
Oh, sure.
Is there another means of egress into the basement besides the outside bulkhead from the inside the building? Is there a staircase that goes down into the basement?
Three.
Into the basement?
Two bulkheads and another.
Okay, there's one inside, all right.
Do any members of the public that are here for this case have any comments or questions? I know whether some of you might have been at the last meeting, or if this is your first meeting, is there anything? Again, this packet is all online, so if you can't see these pictures or haven't seen any of the hard copy ones, they are part of the packet, so you can see them online if you want to zoom in on them. But I do think that these really help illustrate what the property is going to look like. So do you guys have any further comments? Because I'll pretty soon close the public hearing portion of this so we can deliberate on it, but.
So my only point in again, I produced a legal memorandum to Marguerite, which was basically a roadmap for the board to make a decision. It all comes down to this. I'm a legal speaker, and you raised this. There's plenty enough case law, plenty enough room for this board to conclude that an abandonment requires intent. And you can, as a board, make, analysis of the project, figure out what it looks like, and then say there was no intent to abandon the project, to the use. Then that section doesn't apply, and we're all perfectly right where we need to be to get the project approved. So I understand fully, it's unfortunate that Marguerite's not here, but I think oftentimes it's a good measure of discretion that the board has to take into account and not worry about what exactly the law is, as long as there's proof positive, a roadmap to making a good and sound decision. And I think this, all the way around, this project's well within this board's discretion to make a decision and approve the project.
All right. That being said, I'll step down from the chair so I can make a motion that we close the public hearing portion of this case. That means we can't take any more information from the public or questions. We can take questions, but we can't take any more information, but it still will allow us to deliberate about what we feel like we want to do. So I will step down on the call. I don't think so. Carrie, do we have anyone on Zoom for this case besides Jonathan? I think they're all here for
I'm
the
not
next thing.
sure.
Is there, so just in case, is there anyone on the Zoom call that wants to speak on this case? Looks like Nicholas Oliveira has a hand raised.
Yeah, I just had one quick question. The picture of the property on I'm at 923 Center Street. There is a picture, I see a fence going in 6 feet tall. The only question my wife had was looking at the photo. It looks like there's a lot of trees there, which don't exist. And we were just curious about that.
Oh,
On the concept picture.
yeah, I think,
I think that was more just a computer rendering.
You don't plan on.
yeah, I think that was just part of the.
There was no planting that we were not going to change that area at all, other than just provide the fence as requested.
Okay, very good. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
I can see why he thought that, because they all do have the same looking, but that's a good point. There are no trees. Yeah, that's just part of the drawing.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure. Any other questions on Zoom? Going once, going twice? Okay, so I will continue with that motion. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion.
All right, any discussion? All's in favor? Aye, so aye, Zachary Karen.
Greg Logan.
Hi, Jonathan Gale.
Okay. How do you guys feel on this? I personally have zero objections. It is the best use of that property. It's, the abandonment. Oh, okay. I'm glad that we got feedback from, the building inspector and fire chief, because those are things I always want to consider.
Yeah, that's, in Board of Health, they said the septic system is sufficient, all this stuff.
Well in excess of the capacity. It was designed for 31 bed nursing.
Remember, we discussed it, and we didn't hear back from them.
Right.
We have an engineer's letter that and I believe we submitted it at the last hearing.
Sure.
That what we expect as a flow is a fraction of what that was previously generating and treating. So to say that it's more than sufficient is to still play it down.
Greg, we just can't ask any more questions because of the public hearing.
I would also just simply note that with the information that the developer provided and the plans he provided, along with the information that council provided between these two meetings, we were able to fortunately get everything answered and put everything to rest and get all of the residents heard from, and we took into their account their thoughts as well. So kudos to the developer and council for really preparing this well and presenting it well.
John, are there any, again, we can't ask any more questions of the applicant or anything, but is there any other feedback you have on this before we go to make a vote?
The only thing that I would say, and I say this only cautionary, is if our council previously expressed a concern in terms of the timeline and so forth that we're working with, although Attorney Fredericks presented his his argument and submitted his brief. That's the only question mark I have as to whether or not we should hold off until we get a final decision or answer from our counsel with regard to the brief that she received from Attorney Fredericks.
Carrie, I mean, I think we haven't heard anything from her, right? I mean,
No, as far as I know, we haven't, and I'm just wondering if we should, continue this simply to hear if there's anything else she wants to offer contrary to that we need to consider.
She did say at the last meeting that she was not gonna have it available for this meeting.
right.
She was on vacation.
I mean, Greg, I don't know how you feel, but I don't think that would infringe, I mean,
So-
voting on what's before us and what he's asked.
No, Jonathan, I kind of felt the same way, but I'm going to tell you why I turned my page a little bit. The 40B meeting requirements in regards to the apartments, that's a big thing to me. That helps out a lot with the town. Also, we also received information from the building inspector in regards to the property and what was the best, what we could do with it besides knocking it down and starting all over again. And then with the fire chief, talking about that one building. And obviously the developer is willing to work with, well, he's obviously gonna have to do whatever the fire department requests to do in that particular small area. I'm not opposed to the project, and I understand where you're coming from, Jonathan, about tabling it until the next meeting and have Marguerite rebut what Mr. Frederick said on that. But
I would only want that if it was holding off my decision-making, and it's not. It's not like she's gonna come forth with something about this that's gonna
No.
make us go, wait a second, let's not do this.
Exactly, because
I mean, if
we
it was a
came with case law.
if it was a
seen read it.
concern that we were like, can we even do this?
Right.
Obviously, that's a different story, but it was more just regarding one of his elements when he applied. He mentioned one of the bylaw elements, and
So when we,
him, that's not gonna change my mind on how I feel, and I don't think.
And similarly, Zach and Greg, I feel the same way. It's not going to change my opinion or my thought on this whatsoever. I think I've kind of indicated, my thought process to some extent. I just didn't know if it made sense for us just in terms of due diligence, but it's not going to change my thought process
Right.
at this point.
So John, therefore, would you feel comfortable making a vote on this? If there was a motion on the floor to approve this, as a voting member, do you feel like that's gonna hold you back from voting either way?
No, it's
Okay,
not.
okay, so, that being said, I will make the motion that we approve Ferrer Development LLC, on the special permit they have before us.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question. If it's-
Sure.
All right.
Yep.
So there's gonna be conditions on this piece of property.
On the
On the- well, we
proposal?
talked-
I mean, are you saying that you wanna vote this in with conditions, or
I do.
what would those be?
So the conditions would be that the dumpster company doesn't come in the middle of the night and start dumping the dumpster and pissing off the neighbors, pardon my French. And two, the illumination, it says it's gonna be down, it's not direct lighting. Remember Mr. Strange across the street was concerned, headlights used to pull out of his yard, go in there. Did we ever discuss about putting anything in his yard?
There was nothing.
He never brought
No,
it
there
up,
was-
okay.
Yeah, he hasn't been heard from.
I mean, it's just, I don't know, I don't wanna vote on it and not have these in there that, I mean, I feel the developer's gonna do it, but I don't, who's to say there's a spotlight up there? In 10 years, somebody puts a spotlight up top and now it's illuminating the whole place.
I know what you're saying, but that would be like us voting in for someone to build a house and say, but we're gonna put a condition on it saying he can't put floodlights on his property. It's like we.
Well, that
I
was
mean,
clearly what
I mean,
the-
I have a dumpster on my dad's property in our town, at home. If that company chooses to come at 4 o'clock in the morning, we.
No, it can't happen.
But we as a
that's
town
what-
can't say you can't do that.
That's what I don't want. I don't want somebody going in there in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning,
Right.
raising their truck, banging it, dropping it.
But what I'm
and
saying is
pulling
that
out.
I
It's
don't.
just gonna piss people off.
I agree, but what I'm saying is I don't know if we as a board have a legal ability.
We put conditions on stuff like this in the past.
Something specific
Put
like
air
that?
conditioners in front windows, which I was against, but whatever. I didn't care, but couldn't do that. I mean, we've done things like that on other things.
Okay. I mean, I just as long as you feel like that's
It's
in
nothing
line with what we've
crazy.
done before. So then,
just-
if you want to, I will rescind my motion. If you want to make the formal first motion with those conditions, then you can go ahead.
Well, I make a motion that we approve the Ferrera Development LLC, Center Street, special permit with the condition that the illumination would be direct down lighting, which it is, and that they do their best to deal with the dumpster company to come in the middle of the night and start dumping the dumpsters.
I will second that motion. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye, Zachary Karen.
Hi, Jonathan Gale.
Hi, Greg Logan.
All right, so this passes. You guys are all set.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hang on. Hi, Mr. Gale.
Good night.
Did you want to take that with you? I don't know.
Yes.
I mean, we can-
I like to leave souvenirs everywhere.
Oh, okay. Like I said, if anyone here tonight wants to see that and they want to catch them on the way out, that's fine, but it's also online if anyone wants to see that too. All right, so we'll just give them a second to clear out before we move on.
Where is done?
Excited.
Yeah, me too. Well, we have,
If they want to have one, they can put one on.
yeah, we don't allow that. Yeah, we don't.
By default, we don't, that doesn't mean I don't want to handicap, but we would have to do handicap. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna continue on. We're going down to the next, excuse me. We're moving on to the next item agenda, which is review, discuss, and act Stonegate Landing LLC, westerly side of Somerset Ave, map 9, status of phase 1.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Whenever you are ready, you may go ahead and present the case or your update.
Can I talk? That's good. Can I go?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, board members, this is my monthly update of progress and getting Phase A to look as it should. And if someone doesn't know, a couple neighbors are here who were unaware that the project had been withdrawn and continuing the public hearing. And so I just passed it on to them.
Oh,
so they
okay.
know,
Okay.
And this is just me coming in to tell you what we're doing. Good news, playground's ready to open. I see Kevin Smith Jr.'s name up there. I don't know if he's watching, but Kevin met me out at the playground last Thursday afternoon at 4 o'clock. And we had a good conversation, and he thinks we're in good shape. The only question he brought up at the time was the surfacing. The ground cover on that playground is crushed stone. Now, that's been crushed stone since it initially was built back in 2015. Of course, with public playgrounds like the one you have, you couldn't use that surface because they have to be accessible according to ADA. So, as we talked, he said, well, maybe yours is grandfathered because it was built in 2015, but I pointed out to him that, the sign on the front of the playground indicates that it is private, exclusive for the use of Stonegate Landing residents only, and it's supported by the homeowners association, and one of the reasons we have a fence around it is so people from other places couldn't, we can clearly let them know that it's a private. So I think as a private playground, I think we're okay. But I sent Mr. Aguirre a email yesterday asking him to weigh in on it, okay, that I'd like to come out and inspect it, or especially concerned about the surfacing before we let the gates open. And that was just yesterday morning, and I haven't heard back from him yet, but that's the only thing I'm waiting on, to put the open sign, to make sure we're good with that. Okay?
We do have one last minute correspondence that came in. I'll read this into the minutes right now if I can pull it up my phone. If not, Carrie, you have it open, right?
Yeah.
just make sure that I can get to it. Carrie, I don't have enough service to load it. Do you mind if you have it up there for me?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, good afternoon, Jonathan. I met with Mr. Fedorov last Thursday, July 20th, to conduct a safety inspection of the playground area at Stonegate Landing. The main play structure is equipped with ADA transfer plates to allow access onto and off the equipment. The secondary toddler structure is not equipped with ADA transfer plates. There is also a 2-bay swing set with 2 standard swing seats and 2 infant swing seats. There is 1 bench and 1 picnic table for seating. The picnic table is not an accessible style. Overall, the play equipment and seating is all in good working order. The minimum accessibility requirements are met for the equipment itself. I do question the use of surfacing. The entire play area encompassing the structure, swing, and seating is surfaced utilizing only pea stone. The surfacing does not meet the requirements Mass Architectural Access Board CMR 19.7, 20, or 29.1. It also does not meet the minimum requirements excuse me, for ASTMF 1487-21, Standard Consumer Safety Performance Specification for Playground Equipment for Public Use, specifically ASTMF 2223-19A Standards on Playground Safety. I did question the use of the surfacing with Mr. Fedorov while conducting the site visit, and he stated the use of pea stone was grandfathered in based on the original installation of the playground roughly 7 years ago. In my opinion, and through my research, the use of pea stone does not meet the critical fall height requirements for the installed equipment, nor does it provide any accessible routes to any of the equipment or seating. It would be my recommendation to, at a minimum, remove the pea stone surrounding the equipment, excavate and install the appropriate depth of engineered wood fiber. This would also allow for the use of rubber matting to address the issue with accessible routes to the equipment and seating. Thank you, Kevin Smith Jr., Dayton Parks and Recreation, Dayton Community Preservation Committee.
Mr. Chairman, this is Jonathan, and of course, Mr. Smith visited the site. He's on this call with us and can join in or answer for himself in a moment. But just for background, he did, when he met with the developer, he went there looking at specifically the accessibility component, as well as, whether the other equipment was up to par and standard and in working order. With regard to the accessibility component that I asked him to look at, he is correct in that the standard that has to be met was changed in 2012. Now, this was built in 2015, but whoever advised the developer that that was the standard was incorrect. So what Mr. Smith is indicating has to be met in terms of the surfacing and so forth is correct. Secondary to that is, although this is a, quote, private development, unquote, it is considered a 40B development, and as such, he also has to provide access to, not to every single piece of the equipment, but to the playground, unencumbered access, for example, for a wheelchair. That would mean there needs to be a curb cut or a platform such as pavement that takes you to the gate, into the gate with a 36-inch width opening on the gate, and then also takes you to wherever the picnic area is going to be. And as of now, the picnic area or the picnic table does not meet the ADA standard in terms of height requirement and wheelchair requirement.
Okay, thank you. Kevin, I see that you are here. Can you, are you currently, if you were unmuted and you want to unmute yourself and speak on what we'll be discussing, feel free, if you can hear me. I see his name there. Oh, there he is.
Hey guys, sorry about that.
That's fine. Hi Kevin, how are you?
Yeah, so as Jonathan said, I just went back and I reviewed all the standards, and actually that standard dates back to 2010, so it's the DOJ 2010 ADA standards for accessible design. I guess the determination that needs to be made is what level of public use is there. Like, so I did understand, that's why I asked the question, while doing the site visit, is how much public access is allowed there. But I think Jonathan just answered that, so it is because you have the public housing element that may come into play, but I believe that's your determination. And like I said, I think also where you're gonna run into a roadblock where, regardless of what the town's decision is on it, or even of the state regarding 40B, I think you're gonna run into it with an insurance compliance issue anyway. So you may have to address this issue regardless. I think you're gonna have a difficult time getting a certificate of liability for the playground, given the surfacing that's there. I'd also be more than happy to revisit with you and just go over and make some further recommendations, because you don't need to dig out all the pea stone and mulch the whole thing, but certainly underneath, because I can give you what depths it needs to be for critical fall heights for the play structure. It won't be very deep, 5 or 6 inches, and then again for the swings. And then just, it might be a good idea to just do a site visit along with Mr. Gale, just to cover the accessible pathways to the equipment and what he'd like to see as the ADA coordinator.
If we do a site visit of any kind, and John is there, and myself, we can't do that. I'm not sure if you're referring to me being there or to Mr. Fedorov, but because if we have 2 members there, that would be, we have to do a posted public meeting, which we can do. Because we're both members of the board, we both couldn't be there, even if he is acting as a public input member at that point.
I would be going in my capacity strictly as the ADA coordinator for the town and no other capacity.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's warranted to have a ZBA site visit or not, because I think it falls more under the concerns of the ADA coordinator and how it pertains to 40B more than anything else.
Okay, so when you suggested that, you were more directing that to Mr. Fedorov, correct?
Yes, correct.
Oh, okay, I thought you were asking that of the board. Okay, that clears up that concern. So yeah, I mean, that's certainly something that you guys can do. Do you have any other input, Kevin?
No, I just want to note though that I didn't have all the information when we met on site, so I don't mean to surprise you with any of it, but I had to do a little bit of digging because of that grandfathering in situation. I just wanted to double check on that, and unfortunately, that's what we found. But I don't think it's going to be a major obstacle for you. I think we can resolve it fairly easily.
Okay.
More than willing to meet with you anytime, Kevin, and that was what our conversation where you weren't totally sure was one of the reasons I referred it to Jim Aglia to find out, and it looks like you did more digging than I did, so thank you. All right.
And Mr. Fedorov, I am currently out of town, but will be back in actually as of the 6th of August, so I can reach out next week and with Kevin and yourself, and we can set up a date to meet sometime that week after, if that works for you.
I know we do.
Question for me?
I think just more just stating in general, just his availability. Now,
I'm available, yeah.
I know we do have some written correspondence as well with some members of the public, but I do see we have, I think as of right now, one other member of the public here on Zoom. I think her first name is Veronica. I need a new prescription of my glasses. I just can't fully read her name under her.
Veronica
Turrell. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we have, I think it's the person is Veronica Truell.
Yes.
Veronica Truell is actually, for clarification, she is the 40B monitor for this project.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
For clarification, and she may want to share something. I'm not sure.
Yes, that's what I was going to turn into next. If she was ready, she can speak whenever she's ready.
I'll just say good evening. I'm definitely in listen mode. And so Richard, I definitely want to hear, and I think I sent a note to Carrie, she'll probably see it later. If you would, just make sure I get your updates as well so I can follow along with the board, with Jonathan, and just make sure I'm seeing everything that's happening. And just so you all know, as the 40B monitor, my whole goal is to make sure that I'm supportive, especially to our residents, and it's all of our 40B families, and make sure that whatever is happening, we're at least in the conversation. And so I don't have a whole lot to add just yet. I will say this, I am concerned about making sure our HOA comes together at some point soon. So you'll hear a lot from me on that front for sure. But for now, that's it.
It's great to see and meet you. I was not entirely aware that we had an agent who was closely monitoring this, so it's a very good resource that we have. I'm actually glad that you made that comment about the HOA, because one of our written correspondence is related to the HOA. So actually, there's a couple of them. I'm going to read those into the minutes now. Carrie, is there, I know there's a lot here, a specific one that I should read first?
Well, we do have one that's in your packet.
Yeah, so
The individual who wrote it is here, and
Oh,
she's
okay.
asked if she could read it in.
yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, we can start, certainly, I just saw a few different names and a few different things regarding the HOA. I didn't know which one to start with, but.
So the one who is here today is Francine Ferrara, and it's
I saw
last.
that one in email.
It's the very end.
So, and you should read that isn't the hard copy that is in here too?
Yes.
Can you, if you don't mind, just mentioning, so where would I find it?
So it's at the very end of your packet. It starts. Yeah, well, they're not numbered, so.
No,
If you go back.
but I mean, she's here now, so I guess I don't really need to see it to read it, and if she's here and wants to speak. So I'm sorry, who was that? Yeah, excellent. If
So
you
at
wanna.
the end of your packet, go back 9 pages.
Oh, perfect, okay, oh, I got it, I thought I had an email, I was looking for the email heading. Okay, if you wanna come up whenever you're ready, sure.
Harry, could I get a copy of the correspondence?
Yep.
You got one for me? Okay.
And if you don't mind just stating your name and address for the record, if you don't mind.
No, I'm Francine Ferreira, and I live at 942 Stonegate Landing, number 1.
Okay, thank you.
Always available online. It's always online.
Ready?
Yep, oh, yep.
Okay, to whom it may concern.
Sarah, let me just get my things out of the way so you can...
You should listen to this, too.
What's that?
You should listen to what I'm saying.
Well, that's why I got a written copy of it, yeah. Oh, I listen to everything. I don't... If you want me to be right here, okay, but I can listen over
No,
here.
but you said you were going for a coffee or something.
No, I'm not going.
Okay, I'm going to read this then. As you know, there are many problems facing the residents of Stonegate Landing. However, none of them are solvable unless we can come together to build a proper functioning HOA as a community. It does not need to be confusing, nor does it need to remain dysfunctional. We all need to be on the same page, including Richard Fedoroff. A functional HOA consists of community-elected board members, such as president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary. One person cannot fulfill all of these roles, which Richard is currently doing. A functional HOA has transparent practices, such as sharing financial records, reports, making HOA documents public domain, easy to find, having predictable monthly or yearly billing cycles for residents to adhere to, advertised monthly or bi-monthly meetings, public meeting notes, newsletters to keep stakeholders informed, clear rules and regulations regarding what is and is not allowed on your property, a clear description of what an HOA is responsible for in the neighborhood, snow removal, roof repairs, etc. A functional HOA gives each stakeholder access to financial reports so the community can account for where their HOA dues are going, operating funds and reserve funds. While there is currently an HOA agreement for Stonegate Landing, little or none of it is being adhered to by Richard Fedoroff. Many members of the community are under the impression that the HOA will commence once the neighborhood is 3/4 complete. Since Stonegate Landing is not complete and no board has been elected, you can imagine the community members' confusion when some, not all, are forced to pay back HOA fees to a non-functioning association out of the blue. Some are threatened that they will not be allowed to close on their home or refinance until they pay up. Phrases like "no money, no closing" have been used on the residents of Stonegate Landing by Richard. Very recently, Richard backs community members into a corner and does what only can be considered extortion, the residents' hard-earned money. How can there be back HOA fees when there is no billing and no functioning HOA? To my knowledge, he has charged up to 5 community members, if not more, random back HOA fees, costing them anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000, and has provided no record of where that money is going or what it's being used for. Stonegate Landing's current HOA document, Section 1, officers state that there should be a meeting to elect board members for the HOA. Article 5 states that the treasurer is to maintain records and render proper statements of each year. The treasurer shall prepare and distribute to all lot owners a statement of the financial activities of the association during the previous calendar year and of the financial status of the association at the end of each year. The 2 above-mentioned section articles are just a sampling of things that are not being adhered to by Richard. How is it acceptable that Richard doesn't have to follow the rules of the HOA, but is able to extort money from residents under the guise of back HOA payments? These actions prove that not only is he financially bankrupt, but morally bankrupt as well. In my 16 years of living here, I have never received monthly or annual bills for HOA fees. Yet I have been told that when I sell my house, I will be responsible for 16 years of back HOA fees, totaling close to $4,000. Richard considers himself the HOA board. Instead of running the HOA properly, adhering to the agreement, he has become the dictator of Stonegate Landing. We don't mind a proper HOA moving forward, but the residents of Stonegate Landing should not be held responsible for Richard's laziness and inability to do things by the book. It is ridiculous that the residents are asked to pay anything from 2007 till now. I live in a 40B, which is considered affordable housing. I will not have the ability to pay what Richard considers delinquent fees. The only true delinquency falls on Richard's inability, unwillingness to set up a proper functioning HOA. I look forward to working with the Stonegate Landing community and town of Dayton to build a functional HOA together. This will only be possible if someone has the moral compass to dissolve the current HOA and create a new HOA agreement, build a board, agree on fees, implement proper billing, and make financial records public. Included now, please see the pictures of how my daughter's HOA is set up, which you guys should have, the proper way. She's able to log on to the website that gives her access to everything she needs to know about her community and where her monthly billed HOA fees are going. Perhaps we could use this as a template for our new HOA. I also conducted a survey to gain a better understanding of people's view of what is happening in the neighborhood. Please view the survey results at the end of this letter. It is clear that things need to change. Thank you for your time and consideration, and things need to change. Everyone's confused in Stonegate Landing. Ta-da.
Ms. Fedorov, do you have any comments regarding her letter?
I thoroughly agree. I tried to do it in 2018. I rented a church hall. I invited everybody in. We had an agenda, we had proposed budgets, we had everything going. I reached out to everyone to ask them to give me their online, their web address, and I got zero response, because I wanted to communicate that with them. When I wanted to hold the meeting, we had to move it to another date. If I had everyone's emails, I would just send them an email, but I had to go door to door to the neighborhood to notify people. So we just need to work together. Now, you were at that meeting.
I was at that meeting, but that didn't mean that you had control of the whole thing. That's what you said. You signed it. Yeah, it was a sign-in sheet. That's all it was, a sign-in sheet. You're not going to have us say, oh, well, we signed in, and he's the dictator of Stonegate Landing.
We, at that meeting, one thing we did agree to, we were going to form a committee of the members. There were homeowners, there were going to be 5 in that committee. One of them's here. I can't remember who the other, you were there, and the guy on the end of the right. Yeah. So we had a one committee meeting at your house. We talked about it. I offered at that time to turn over complete control to homeowners and do just what you're asking, and then it just never
Well, then
came.
let's do it.
Well,
Let's do it. And what did,
support me.
You gotta stop right there. You gotta stop right there. There's a lot of things that need to be finished before we can talk about that.
Yeah, we actually.
Let's get together and talk is what we should do.
We should,
All right, okay, guys, we can't be hashing all of
No.
that side stuff out. We have someone who has a comment to make? Well, not someone. She's Veronica regarding the. Your hands. You want to go ahead? I see your hands raised. Veronica, sorry. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry.
thank you. Thank you. So a couple of things, Francine and Richard. So Francine, I don't know if you're done. Richard, I definitely want to address where we are. So first, now that we've sold 942, thank goodness, now we will start working on what looks like an interim HOA. You can't just put an HOA together. It does take time. We will not look at somebody else's HOA. We have to do everything according to what Massachusetts says we will do for HOAs. But remember, you still have 5 units that haven't been built. And so once you complete a phase, then the developers always turn over the HOA to the residents. That's how it's done. But you have to close. And my question is going to be, Richard, how soon can we get those 5 built so we can close phase 1? Once we close phase 1, you can move forward. The second thing I want to address is there are people already working together. Francine, I know you've been pretty active in talking to everyone, but I've also been talking with Casey, and then we are going to have a different meeting, not today, but in a couple of days, to just sort of make sure that everyone gets to say what they need to say. Let me hear everyone's concerns. And Richard, I want to work with you all as a developer because I want to make sure that there's communication back and forth to everyone, because what I understand is they haven't received like all their invoices and things like that. So yes, you did snow removal, you've probably cut grass and different things, and so you can invoice for those. But those are not HOA items, Francine. Those are just invoices for work that might have been done. So I'm not taking sides, I'm just telling you what I know. And so I want for us to work together for the formal HOA, but we gotta get those houses built. But in the interim, I will work with like Carrie, with Jonathan, and whoever else I need to work with, so we can make sure that the families at Stonegate Landing are getting what folks are getting at Dighton Woods or anywhere else. So we want to make sure that we're all on one accord. And there will be a few people in that meeting, and like I said, Casey is definitely one of them. We will not have everybody, because I'm sure everyone's got different schedules, but let's just try to figure this out. I don't want to go back and forth. I won't do it. But we want to make sure that everyone's voices are heard and that everyone gets to write up what they need to, and I want to see everything. Because I want you to just send it to me, and Richard, I'll be happy, like I said, to work with you and a few folks from the town, and let's get this together and right-side it. And please, let me know when those 5 houses are gonna be built, because I really need it. I've got 2 other families who need 40B homes.
Veronica, just out of curiosity, have you seen or aware that the meeting packet tonight is posted online? Because there are other correspondence that have been sent to Carrie regarding the HOA that you definitely want to probably take a look at? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep. And then, like I said, there's some, and then I've had some conversation back and forth with Casey a little bit, because there's other things, clearly. But in this last go around, the reason why I became very involved was because we were selling 942 to Mr. Miura's, and that took a lot because there was not a formal HOA, right? It's on record, but it wasn't formalized. Couldn't get insurance. The bank wouldn't close. The banks were upset. I almost didn't get this deal done. So I had to have insurance placed for the condex that was built, which is an anomaly. But that's what happens when you don't have a lot of communication and people don't know what's supposed to be happening. And so now that we have insurance on the condex for Ms. Kamara and for Francine, I can now move forward with the other things. But yes, I did see some of the correspondence, and then I'll deal with the rest of it later.
Okay. If there's anything else you need from Carrie, I assume you have her contact information. Just feel free to reach out whenever you do. Okay.
I do. Carrie's been wonderful, and so has Jonathan. They've been great to work with.
Fantastic. Good to know. The other residents that are here tonight, do you have anything regarding this, or is it just here? I know you guys. Some of you guys might have thought we were talking about the actual case that was before us, but do you guys have anything else regarding what was being discussed, or?
So in 20, do I take it?
Yeah, I need your name and address for the record.
I'm the Casey that Veronica's referencing.
Oh, okay.
I didn't end up writing a letter because.
That's okay. You don't have to, but I mean, we do just need your name and address for the record. That's all.
Sure. It's Casey Brothers now. I actually got married right up there last year. Thank you. So I'm Casey Brothers. I live at 954 Stonegate. So in 2018, I also live in a 40B. In 2018, I moved here on my own. I had recently just lost 2 of my brothers. My parents and I, thought about, like, do I live there, stay with them, or do I kind of go off on my own? Because I wanted to make sure they were okay, of course. So this opportunity came up, and I said, you know what, I'm going to do it, and kind of fulfill the dream of mine, owning a home at a young age, doing what I wanted to do, and just, being successful. From there, I was able to put myself through law school, graduate, pass the bar on the first time, all while working full-time. In the meantime, this development has caused nothing but stress since I lived there, since May 7th of 2018. I have also been married. I have a baby now, and this playground that's been heavily discussed here, I wouldn't bring my son there if you paid me to, because I'm not comfortable even bringing him there for something as simple as a functioning playground. On top of that, in 2018, when this meeting was formed, that's been brought up several times, I walked in. Again, I'm at the time was probably the youngest person in the development. I'm not an idiot by any means. I won't claim to know everything, but I will not claim that I am stupid by any means. I walked in. As Francine mentioned, there was a sign-in sheet of who was there from each house. Now, while we were there, the question was, at one point, do we eliminate the bus turnaround? So at one point, Richard tried to hold a vote and essentially said, I hold the majority vote because I have the remaining houses in phase 2 and whatever wasn't finished in phase 1. So even if we were going to throw a vote out there, he was going to trump us anyway. And I'm only stating this just to show the the mindset that I walked into, not knowing that this is how a neighborhood in a small town like Dayton is supposed to function. Now, in addition to that, in that same meeting, he tried to set up, this is the amount of HOA fees owed from, I think at the time it was like 2016 or 2017. And I said, I didn't move in until May of 2018. Like I'm not going to vote, and two, I'm not going to stand for that. That's completely unfair, especially for someone that stepped in as a 40B and has done everything possible to be where I am. At one point, he referenced me as little girl in the meeting, just again to show the level of respect that was not there. And since then, I kind of just washed my hands of it. Now, to his point of forming a small subcommittee, I don't know how else you want to phrase it. It was myself, the Sheedies, who are sitting back there. I don't know your number off the hand, sorry. Matt Udell, Shane Vizina, and Julie and Nicole Hebert. All of us met at the Sheedies' house, which they were nice enough to offer. At no point were we a formal committee. I want to throw that out there. We were nice enough to take time, significant amount of time out of our days to set up the meeting with him. Mr. Sheedy was nice enough to go to town hall, get all the plans, talk to anyone and everyone needed to get all this information. Again, time that we didn't need to spend. It is not our responsibility. But again, we wanted it to work. We wanted to have the community that I thought I was moving into. Now, after that subcommittee meeting, nothing happened because then the neighbors got together and it became kind of what you saw earlier where it's he said, she said, it's just a loud noise, nothing gets done, which doesn't help us. So the reason I'm kind of speaking today is just to kind of lay that foundation and say that we're willing to have this done right, but we also need help from the town. And Veronica and myself have been going back and forth trying to get this off the ground because again, I'm newly married, have a baby and wanted to raise a family here. And with the stress, like I don't even want to live in the neighborhood anymore. I want to sell and move, which is terrible. And that shouldn't be the way that this is supposed to be. Again, the 40B opportunity out there is for people like myself, or even Francine at the time when you moved in, I think you said in 2007 or 2012 or something like that, to be able to be there and live in affordable housing and be a member without feeling like, oh my God, like I'm the poor person on the street or whatever. And it's been nothing but an absolute demise and a disarray, and I just can't even use enough synonyms to show you how much of a hassle this has been, how much stress this has been. If I didn't have my hair dyed, you would see how gray I've been because of this. It's truly terrible. And again, as someone who went to law school and who works at a community bank, I know how important it is for these types of communities to exist, and to see that this is time and time and time and time and time again fail is disheartening, especially for a town like Dayton. And so I'm truly hoping that Veronica being on board, as well as with Carrie, and she's mentioned that she's spoken with Jonathan a lot too, as well as the four of you, that we can fix this, because it's not right. And it's not what Dayton's about. It's not about what any town or city is about, and we need to fix it. And I know that's what the point of us being here is, but I cannot stress enough that, when you guys leave here and you go home to your houses, not that you forget about it, but you don't have to deal with the ramifications. Whereas I go home to my husband and 11-month-old son, and I'm like, is the neighborhood gonna blow up tomorrow? What's gonna happen here? Like, is someone gonna get hurt in the playground? I'm gonna get a $30,000 assessment for something I'm not even allowed to use. Like, stupid things like that you shouldn't have to worry about. And I'm just rambling at this point, so I'm gonna go sit down. But thank you for your time, and thank you.
Anyone else want to speak? Are you just here to? Are you guys all set? And is he with you? Sorry. Is he with you or?
No, he's another neighbor.
Do you have anything specific to say or just?
No, I'm just reiterating.
Okay. All right.
May I say something
Sure.
else? Well, she said about the stress. You have no idea what kind of stress I've been through with my next door neighbor, Ivan and Ida Mira. They are now in Brazil, which is where they belong. They're happy. But they sold their house in March. Nothing worked out well. They should have had a lawyer that speaks.
Ma'am, I'm sorry. We can't go into the other neighbors I've had if they want to come and speak, but we can't.
They're in Brazil, honey.
I know, but if they can write into the board.
I just want to tell you how stressful it was for me. Okay, because they kept coming to me and asking me questions and asking me questions and asking me questions. Every time I opened my garage door, Ivan was there.
Ma'am, I understand that you're stressed. I think that's been made clear, but we can't go into every detail about how everyone is stressed. I mean, we all understand that.
Okay, so this is the one thing I don't understand.
Yeah.
Which I hope that you can clear up. Ivan gave you $2,000 so that you could put it toward the $4,000. You gave it back to him.
We cannot be discussing this during a meeting. This is.
Okay, well, I don't know, apparently. I'll ask you later.
What? I'm sorry?
Yeah, good, and then you'll be honest. You'll be
Guys,
honest.
I cannot allow this to happen. We cannot be discussing your private matters during the meeting. If you want to go talk outside, you certainly can, but if it's related to what we have before us, we can discuss it, but anything private like that, we cannot be discussing during the meeting. But, if you, yeah.
I just have a question. In this section, Veronica, go
Sorry, one second, you guys.
Oh, I can.
Yeah.
And this is a generic question. When you have a development build, do you, like, you do a bidding process of some kind, I don't know, but do they have to put a bond up in order to build so something goes wrong?
Yes, yes.
Did that happen in this case, and if so, is Stonegate Landing gonna be able to get the bond to help facilitate the fixes, multiple fixes? That's just, I don't actually know the answer, it's a legitimate.
I mean, I assume we should probably talk about like the performance guarantee, right?
Yeah. Well,
I'm sorry if this isn't the right form.
no, it's okay. We can definitely get you an answer on that. I just wanted to go to Veronica. She had something else too.
You're muted.
You unmute yourself.
Unmute would be a good idea, right? I just want to say, and I'm so sorry all of this is going on. We can't, and I've said this to you before, Francine, we just can't talk about people's personal monies and all that stuff. And I definitely, I think we want to stay clear of that. So if you have a question on that 40B.
Well, I just think that
And then ask
he has to answer some questions.
But don't,
So
but
we'll go
don't.
privately and answer some questions, Veronica.
Francine.
Francine.
you gotta be quiet
Francine,
while she's talking.
please. I think because the mayors are not here to represent themselves, right? That's one. And two, I don't think they'd want to discuss whatever happened financially. But if you want to ask Richard offline, I think that would be fair, just not to get them mixed up in this because they're not here. Okay? So thank you. I just don't want to have any other personal information come out. Not now. This isn't.
Yeah, I wasn't saying it wasn't relevant or important, but that's what I was trying to get at. Thank you. Greg, is there anything you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Come up here, Mr. Fedorov. I want you to read this. This was, right at the very bottom line. This is your signature, correct? It is. Okay, it's your signature. The first association fee will not be set or due until the subdivision is completed. Correct? All right, thank you. You don't have any business setting up an HOA right at this moment.
What's that?
You don't have any business setting up an
Sir,
HOA.
that's not correct.
I'm telling you, you
I
don't.
can tell you that. That's not a recorded document.
Mr. Fedorov,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
just telling you, this was set into a packet, and I'm gonna leave this as a packet. So, Mr. Fedorov, I'm gonna tell you again, listening to what I'm hearing right now, this is disgusting. I want you right here so you can hear me, because you always say you can't hear everybody.
Can't. This is-
All right,
I agree.
this is bullshit. Straight up.
I,
There's no excuse for this. You don't have any record of anything.
I do have lots of records.
Well,
And
next
I said
meeting that you come here, bring it.
I
Bring it. Bring
I
it.
already said a dozen, and nobody's reading it.
I read every piece of paper that comes here.
I have sent every.
I want to see it next meeting.
What's that again, sir?
I want to see it next meeting.
I'll have every.
Okay.
In the meantime, I worked with Veronica on.
Veronica, have you seen this? You're muted.
Have I seen, what is that? What
This is a Stonegate Landing Homeowners Association Acknowledgement Letter. Have you read this?
I looked at it a little bit, so I haven't finished reading it because I was gonna work with our attorney.
Sure, but I'm reading the very bottom line item, then there's all the signatures, and what I read is there. All right, so these signatures he's trying to say are not legal. I want this all brought next meeting.
Yep, it should all be there, all the invoices that were sent. Anything you have, Richard, you should have it, for the next meeting. And, yeah, and we're gonna work from that document actually that you have in your hand.
So next meeting, you're gonna bring all the HOA, where the monies went, who you took the monies from, that, I don't care. At the end of the day, you don't have any business taking it out. It says it clearly in the comprehensive permit. Clearly. It says it in the permit.
Yep.
Your permit,
Yeah.
your comprehensive permit. It says you're not to take it out until the development is complete.
Right.
Bring that too.
It has been amended 3 times.
And I've been here twice.
Okay, all right. I want something
Okay.
time to talk about it.
Yep.
And I didn't know all this was happening tonight, I would have brought it to you tonight. Okay, but there's always 2 sides to the story. Just let me present mine.
Sure.
Any other members?
Thank you.
All set? Okay. Okay, obviously, there's another thing that we need to make a vote on, since it's not
No.
a case, but, Luis, sorry, you guys didn't have anything? Oh, John, yeah, John, yeah.
I was just going to say, Zach, going back to Mr. Fedorov, just as a fair chance, he did talk about the playground, but I didn't know if there was, going back to, circling way back to a few minutes ago, is there anything else that he separately wanted to provide an update on? For example, the roads, on the engineering process, or anything like that? Is there anything else he wants to share?
Want to talk about it?
No, go ahead.
Where's it? Sorry.
You up for that? All right. This will be another topic I think everybody interested.
He's working on it.
And for the record, we're talking about the traffic in the onto Somerset Ave 138. What road is that? Oh, Stonegate Landing. Proposed road, Stonegate Landing. Curb cut. This is back from 2005 of August, but he just wanted to provide an update on this. Thank you.
As I told you in previous meetings, we have gone to Mass DOT to get a curb cut to permit to make changes at the entrance. The original permit was approved in 2000. Let me get my copies. Was approved in 2005. Okay, at that time, the road work didn't get started until 2006, and the permit expires 8 years out. Now, at this part of the Stonegate story, I was nowhere near the project, okay, just so you know that. And so the fire department, police department wanted to get control of the traffic coming in and out. It was always intended to be a one-way in, and to slow the traffic down and try to enforce that, I put up new signs and speed bumps. I've had a little success in getting the traffic away from 138. And you can see even on this, on the Highway Department, DOT, it was called the Highway Traffic Division back then, when they put a note, there's proposed drive entrance only, okay? And anecdotally, I've heard that was more, the real reason was going to be more for fire and police protection, because it only had a one-way in from the other side. And so this went in, but it was always intended as a one-way into the project. Now, the biggest problem with this property of working with DOT and Silver Engineering now is that coming off of 138, the radiuses aren't big enough, okay? If you look at the proposed plan, the radius would have blocked the entrance to the guy next door.
Yep.
So, when they finally got out in the field to do this, they wanted to do this, they said, well, wait a minute, we can't block that guy's driveway, and it wasn't, you know. And I also got told by Silver in the young man at DOT, the world's changed since 2004. You know, it's granite curving, very vertical, okay? And we've got something that's been there for 17 years, okay? And, you know, So we submit, Silver sent, the second page is details of what, not all the details, but it's very similar to the first, but it has a bigger radius in it. But as Silver told me, you know, everything's new with DOT, you have to start, and the radius off of a state highway, it's just going. Now, Rebecca Silver told me that if you stay with that original radius, then you've got to go to the guy next door and get permission to block his driveway.
What about the rocks?
What's that?
What about the rocks?
Oh, the rocks are in the layout, okay? But if you look at the picture here, all right, we'll start the radius way up here,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll actually go beyond,
By the time it comes in.
yeah, it comes around, okay? So this is the bigger problem we all have, okay? And there was talk about making it two-way. There's not enough room, and it would never work, okay? Well, I was talking to the highway superintendent and the consultant from Green back in July 6th. They were flirting with the idea that we'd just make it a one-way in for emergency vehicles only. And then the rules will change, okay? But without extending that curve, well, it'll block his driveway, and he would have to agree to it. If they had done this in 2004, DOT is coming up with a form now, and it's the last page, that in order to get a plan approved with that same radius today, I have to go to the neighbor and get him to agree with it. Nobody was doing that back in '04.
Right.
All right? And that's part of the problem even with all Stonegate. It was approved in '06. 40 feet, everything has changed dramatically since then. This is an old one, and it isn't quite what people see other places. But, so that's the issue, and, you know, I mean, Silver Drive and the cul-de-sacs, we could handle the two-way traffic onto Center Street. And the biggest problem, and even with the one-way in, the biggest problem wasn't cars coming in, it was cars going out.
But I believe
That's caused a lot of problems.
so many feet in has to have two means of egress exiting the property. I don't think you can keep this as one. It goes too far.
I don't think so either.
We don't allow that. So I don't believe we could shut that particular section down. I did talk with Tom Ferry in regards to the speed bumps. Did he talk to you about that?
What's that?
About the speed bumps?
Yeah.
It was news to me, but he was just telling me the concerns he had with them. I think
Well,
he
there's
told
an
me.
issue in the winter with plowing and all that.
Yeah.
But I was more just trying to send home the message, don't come in this way.
So,
It's annoying.
You can't.
You need to stop.
so this,
I mean, I get it, but I mean, we,
so you're gonna need to reach out to this gentleman here to see if we can do the curb cut to his driveway. The state's not willing to work from his driveway to make the curb, or they wanna go into his driveway.
It'll go past the driveway. It'll block the driveway.
Mr. Fedorov, was there also a question about whether or not the surface, I think there's also a question about whether or not the surface is acceptable now, where the surface has to be redone, taken up and redone.
of the road,
Yes.
Yeah, we're waiting on the engineering for that, Jonathan. We're waiting for that to all come back.
Okay, thank you.
But if we pursue with the permit, with DOT, with that radius, if that neighbor doesn't agree to it, we're wasting it.
Of course.
Okay? So if you use it, just keep it one-way in, or if you make it just for police and emergency vehicles, then the rules will change a bit, okay?
Okay.
All right. But that's, you know, and the suggestion would be made that we put a gate in with a lockbox on it that only the police and fire can use. It would force everyone to go the other way.
But I believe, I'll look into it a little more, but I don't think you can go so many feet in without having another exit out. We don't allow it.
There is a limit in the ZBA for dead ends, okay? But if you look like, the Stony Brook, the people up there with that huge subdivision, they got one entrance,
Yeah,
and it goes to miles.
but it loops back to the same entrance.
I agree.
Yeah, this one
Okay.
has,
So,
Right.
this is different.
okay, but, so there is some
Yeah,
flexibility.
we'll look into
Yeah,
that.
but it's it's something that, and then there's the other issue with the, well, that's enough issues. Okay.
I think we had someone else pop up, to leave iPhone, I'm assuming, Julie, are you here for what's being discussed right now in this case? Or are you here for something else, excuse me? Or,
I think it was her acknowledgement.
she lives
Can you
on.
guys hear me?
I can't hear.
I can now, yes.
Hi, sorry, yeah, I'm here for Stonegate.
Do you have anything specific you want to ask, or are you just here for information and listening?
Just here for listening.
Okay, alright, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think that's all we have to discuss with this tonight.
Sure, I gotta make one more. It was through conversations with Veronica over a period of 3 or 4 months when we talked about all this, and one of the things she said, the next thing I'm gonna do is fix it for her. And I said, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I think that's all we have for this. Any other? Oh, yeah. Oh, it's Lisa P. I think had an email.
Lisa Paquette. I can respond to that.
Okay, sure, yep.
On the July 6th meeting with Tom Perry and Sadine, okay? They visited her property, and the engineer said he'd report back directly to the board, okay? Because you're working for him, and we have this mutual agreement, I'll pay for it, but this will all work together. And he said he would report back, but Lisa happened to be home that day, and I stepped aside and I walked the property with her, and basically said, you got some work here to do, it's not your developer's problem.
So it's resolved.
What's that?
It's resolved, she's happy?
Well, the engineer promised to write a report to tell you that was the case. And obviously you haven't gotten it yet, okay? But both Tom Perry and the engineer agreed to do the overgrowth, changes to adding a swimming pool, gutters that aren't working right, a whole bunch of reasons. And it had nothing to do with what you were building 1,500 feet away.
Okay.
They confirmed that.
Thank you.
Dave, do you have anything? No. John, do you have any final questions or comments regarding this?
Thank you.
Veronica, do you have anything else? Okay.
No, sorry, you time.
No problem. Okay, so that being said, we will move on to the,
Thank you, Chair.
yep, thank you. Public input, is there any public input unrelated to this case? Or anything, I assume we have nothing that came in, right? No other correspondence?
We can't talk to each other, I don't get in. Okay? You want to join us, folks? Why not?
You guys have anything else, or just?
I'm inviting everyone to talk to me. Nobody wants to talk.
Yeah, I'll be right
That's what
back.
I've been getting all these years.
I'll be right back.
All right, I hope so.
Yeah, Casey.
Sorry if I misunderstood or asked the wrong form.
No.
Did we get an answer on the bond?
Right, so she had a thought.
Sorry about that.
For some reason, I'm gonna go lead to council
Excuse
now
me.
because,
I was wondering if I could speak to you at some time.
yeah,
When?
after the meeting.
Can you talk to Richard?
Okay. As long as it has nothing to do with this case.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so,
But that's about the bond. I think
Yes.
this is more of an information
yeah, so I
question,
believe
right?
we have to check with Marguerite on this because for some reason, I don't think there is.
But I mean, this was obviously way before I was. I imagine.
This was before me, and then I got dragged into it when he took it on, and then I went to the next one.
If you wanna,
I'd have to look a little more deep into that for you.
yes.
Usually.
Yes.
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 Stuff with the fan, then that kind of would
Correct.
This was one of the first 40, if it wasn't, it might have been the first 40B that Dayton had tried. I'm not saying it was, but I know it was one of them.
Probably could have been.
And,
I mean, I was in elementary school when
yeah,
this happened. so-
elementary school. So it's been a long time, all right? And
Yeah.
I've been on the board for 12 years, and I know this has been going on and on and on.
Since you got on the board.
Since I've been on the board. And Mr. Fedorov took it on from another developer that was failing. He started making great strides, economy tanked. And then since then, I don't know, you know, obviously it's trickled downhill, and unfortunately you guys have been in the middle of it. But we can check on, I don't believe there's a performance bond on your comprehensive permit on this particular project. But I want to look a little more into that, because there could be some stipulations with what we can do with the properties being sold.
But
Okay, Greg.
Hold on, Jonathan.
Greg,
I'm
no,
sorry.
I think Veronica wants to add something about that specifically.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know who, I'm sorry, I didn't know who was speaking, I could only see your.
it was
name.
Casey, one of the residents.
Okay, all right, so before you, I think you might want to just give me a call, and you can get my number from Jonathan and Carrie.
Sure.
And I think you want to actually have a conversation with me before, again, we monitor this, but I have other properties in Dayton and Rehoboth. And so I know a lot about it, and I know Jeffrey Tarbanico had this one before, again, that was pre me even being there.
Yep.
But I read the information, I read what was happening, and I could see where some of the things fell out. So in order to fix it, you almost have to go back just a little bit, and then start finding where the holes, you know, where things started to fall out for Richard at this point, and for the residents. And so before you do anything, please make sure you talk with me, so that we're not, you know, trying to work on something that we should be working on together. I think it'll be helpful, your voice and my voice together, I think it'll be good.
Beautiful.
Okay?
But no, no, absolutely. Did you guys have anything else, or you guys just also here for anything else?
I mean, I do have a concern. If there is no bond, what if he starts having financial troubles like Tarnico did, and next thing we know, Richard's gone, then what happens? There's no bond, Richard's gone, street's undone, the pump house hasn't been turned over to the town. What happens?
This is why we're in this situation with this one, but again, I think when we're gonna talk with her, we're gonna get to the bottom of this. As you can see, I'm a little frustrated with Mr. Fedorov myself.
Understandably so.
You know, I'm trying to compose myself and be right with him, but he doesn't get it unless you bark at him. And I don't like doing that.
I've known Greg a while, I haven't seen him get like that.
And I'm like, enough's enough, you know,
No,
you know.
I find it even more concerning now that the sale of Phase B has fallen through.
Right.
And Richard's maintaining that. He's clearly financially strapped.
Not that you would have had any need to, but when we've had other 40Bs come before us within the past 3 or 4 years, this has been discussed in terms of like performance. You know, and I think I've even heard you say when I first joined the board, we need something to ensure that if XYZ and you wash your hands of it and walk away, we need all these things in place. So yes, those things do exist, but they might not have at the time, at no one's fault
No,
back
again,
then. But
it was
so
something.
those things, to answer your general question, yes, those things do exist, but maybe not have at the time of this project.
Zach and Greg, technically, I think we closed public input, and I'm not trying to be the naysayer here. I just don't want to.
No.
You're right.
No, it was more if we had a case that we were discussing, but the public input goes on until we join the meeting. It wasn't like we were discussing a case that we already voted on.
Okay. Well.
Okay,
Anything else, guys, or? Okay.
I do want to say something.
Well, can we just go on to approval of the minutes?
Yeah, I just don't want to get her phone number.
Oh.
I want her phone number.
Okay, Veronica, does it, Carrie have your phone number?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to get that so you and I can speak on a couple matters on this case. Okay, thank you.
Get that to you tomorrow, Greg.
Thank you.
I just didn't want to say that.
Nope, no, I don't want to say it out loud, no.
Okay.
So like this matter is closed.
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah. No problem, Casey.
Oh yeah, Casey has my number too.
Yeah. And to go down to the approval of the minutes. Did everyone have a chance to look at the June 27th?
I have, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to approve the minutes, June 27, 2023.
Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that, Greg Logan.
Any discussion? All in favor? Remember, you need to state your name because we're on Zoom.
Aye, Greg
Jonathan,
Logan.
David Phillips, aye.
Elise Vincent, aye.
I've never seen you so eager to put a motion out there. There wasn't even a verbal period. Then you're like, I'm in motion. All right.
Have you ever seen me this quiet?
No.
Depends on the meeting, but I guess that's all we have to discuss. I mean,
Zach, you haven't voted yet.
oh, to approve the minutes. Yes, I Zachary. Thank you.
All in favor?
Yeah, all in favor. Aye. Okay.
June 27th.
Yeah, that's done. I mean, before we go to adjourn, obviously I don't want to sit here and rehash everything. Is there anything you guys want to discuss? I'm excited about the nursing home project. I don't want to call it that.
Veronica, thank you for being here, part of the conversation.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I don't know how, and I don't mean this any disrespect to you or your office, but I don't know how we haven't had you here before.
Oh, I don't know. But Carrie made sure I was here. Carrie and Jonathan sent an email, so I got
So
it.
did they reach out to you? That's how you came out?
No, we've been talking for a while. It's just that this situation with Fedorov, it was like major. So, I heard through the residents that there was gonna be a meeting, because I'm usually not looking at your town calendar.
You may want to take that back, because now that I know that you're a resource, that's going to be very helpful. So you may regret that.
No, that's perfectly fine. I mean, we do so much, and I do so much. I mean, my background in affordable housing, I've been doing this for a long time. I used to be a loan officer, then an underwriter, right?
Yeah.
And then I went into the nonprofit world, where I did not only first-time homebuyer education and taught that, I also helped people with foreclosure prevention, with condo issues, all of the above, everything housing, and I love it. But I always want to make sure that, our homeowners and our future homebuyers are okay, as well as the town. So I'm excited about connecting with you all.
Yeah, no, me too. When I heard your title, I was like, where was this? Oh my God, we've needed this for so long.
Carrie found me one day. As a matter of fact, Carrie found me.
Thank you, Carrie.
Yeah, on 942 Stonegate. She found out that I was the monitor, and we've been talking ever since. And we've been trying to get this one sold. Has it been almost 2 years, Carrie?
Give or take.
Give or take, yeah, probably.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
We've actually been trying, Zach, Veronica and I, for a couple of years now, and then COVID got in the way.
Yeah.
We put together workshops to educate, the different town departments and.
I remember you mentioning that 2 years ago, yeah.
Yes, yeah, so we go way back, if you will.
Yeah, we do. Jonathan, yep, we sure do. So, so to be in flow with Jonathan and Carrie is great for me. And so, yep, I'm here, so you guys know how to reach me.
Perfect.
Okay.
Before I make a motion to adjourn, I do see that someone on the call named Jess is here. I don't know, I didn't see her name before. I just don't know if she has anything to say. If not, that's fine, but I just want to give her the opportunity to speak if she wants to.
Oh, we just jumped on, we're in the Stonegate Landing community, and we had a foster care class before this, and it just ended.
Oh, okay.
So we just wanted to see what we could get, but we'll talk to our neighbors. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
You'll be able to rewatch it on our YouTube channel. Probably by the end of the week, Lynn? By tomorrow, it'll be posted online.
Yes.
I'm just unclear on
Sure.
something.
Yeah, sure.
It's business that we talked
Yeah, of course.
about earlier.
Yeah.
Okay. If he's been asking people for back HOA dues, what are we doing about that? I mean, people have paid him, and Greg pointed out he cannot be accepting money. Is that what?
I hate to sound like I'm passing the buck,
Waiting till
but
next
I think a lot of this stuff is going to be addressed now that we have Veronica.
with
I think is a
Veronica.
major factor in this.
I just feel like we left a loose end today.
Did you get a chance to see what the building inspector wrote?
Yeah.
And he clearly stated that this is a ZBA issue.
Yes.
Because we're the ones who have to monitor the project.
Which
Right.
which is why Veronica's, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? So like,
so that's what made me
all these
start
times
getting
at
angry.
meetings when we were like, well, who polices these things? Who polices these things? Who follows through when all the X, Y, and Z is done?
Yeah, we're always
That's-
told it's a civil matter. Well, it's really not. He's not sticking to the HOA that he had written, that he signed. That's why I ripped that out of the page, and I was waiting
Oh,
for
I
him
like
to
that
say
you
it.
did that. What's the next, I'm just
Yeah.
unclear on the next step on that. And maybe
The next step, I mean,
Yeah, so are we waiting,
So next meeting, hopefully Mr. Federoff brings in where all the monies went, which I know he won't.
what about the people that were billed and didn't realize that they didn't have to pay that money?
so stuff like that, I
That's
think is
civil.
where we get into, like, again, not trying to pass the buck again, but a civil matter. Yes, for underneath the town's umbrella, we are a decision-making board, but we cannot go.
No, I understand,
No,
Chelsea, if
oh,
you're
I
down,
know,
yeah, it's
but
just
like, so anything like that,
So they need to come before us.
right. A
Okay,
resident wouldn't come before us and say,
So we see.
Okay, you sure?
man, I'm sorry, we're still running the meeting, I just don't wanna.
All right.
So
Sure.
Okay, yeah.
Get it through
I'll wait till
Carrie.
Francine leaves.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, it's just,
Yeah, I wanted to wait till Francine left. I don't know who else is in the room. So on those monies, right? Because I had a question too. And I was trying to figure out if there's not a formal HOA, because I know all the buildings are not done, how do you, one person, then collect all these fees? So now I heard that other people had paid them, when they either sold or refinanced or whatever. Oh, no, sold the properties, right? So I had to ask the question, so what was the money for and how? Because it's not for maintenance, it's not for the roofs, it's not for window or anything that's normal to me for 40B world or for development, right, but 40Bs. And then he explained, because we were talking about the snow removal and things like that, Richard said, well, I did all the snow removal because I thought the town had done it. And come to find out, he said he had done it, and so he was invoicing. I said, well, any contractor can invoice people for snow removal. That I don't have a problem with, but you can't do HOA fees if there's not an HOA. That was my biggest thing.
Right.
There's no HOA, but if you charge people and you say, hey, I'll remove your snow, and it's gonna cost you $50 per house or whatever, if you make that arrangement, then fine. But he didn't invoice people. I don't think he did it every single time. I don't know what he did. I don't know if he had a treasurer working with him, right? So how do you collect money from people too if they don't have something in writing saying what they owe?
right, and I really hate to use this expression, but it's one of those buyer beware kind of things, in the sense that you didn't have to give them the money. And I am please, I am not taking the side of the developer or saying what was done is right. But it's stuff like that where it's like, you know.
It says it right here, fees is yet to be determined.
So stuff like that, I think that's what you would,
I'm like,
when you.
One of the things that's going to be really important is that, and I think Veronica would agree with this, is that when residents closed on their units, whether they were 40B or not, but in this case, we're talking about 40B for Veronica's purposes, those residents would have had to have been given closing documents that discussed any HOA and whether it was under the purview of the developer and when it was going to be turned over, which is generally not until the build-out is completed.
Right.
And the residents would have had to sign off on those documents. So
That's what this is.
the question also, and again, I know we went through different developers, but were those documents produced, and were they produced for each of the residents who purchased in that development? Veronica, I think you'd agree with that there has to be, that trail has to exist.
The trail has to exist, which means for me, is going back to the very beginning, trying to pull down what is really not there, right? So I don't have anything from Tardanico except for the fact that he existed and this development started under him. And then I have to go to each person's old file. So I've had to figure out where those boxes are with all their information to go see what was in there. Now, I know it's recorded too, but I like to have things in my hand.
Oh, absolutely.
I can actually read it.
Yes.
And mark it up as I need to. So I did not see, at first glance, I didn't see anything that an attorney would have written that says, you know, the HOA is not in effect until, you know, until all built, until phase one is closed. I didn't see anything like that, right? And so,
This one's signed by the homeowners, Stonegate Landing as Mr. Fedorov, and then the executives of the Metro South Realty.
We have Jess as a hand raised, and it came up shortly after you said something, so maybe she might have a comment or a question about that. Jess?
Yeah, so my husband is on the call with me. His name is Eric. We actually purchased our house in Stonegate Landing in 2020, and we can tell you that we were never given any information on an HOA. We were never given anything, like we never signed anything.
I didn't sign anything. This is Eric Stamp, 956 Stonegate. No documents, no covenants, nothing, no fees. I didn't sign anything, that closing.
We actually haven't met Richard before. So, this is all kind of new to us.
This place is a mess.
yeah, it is. And last closing wouldn't have it because there is no HOA. So there's no HOA, you can't have HOA fees. And so we're gonna figure this out. And like I said to Richard, you can't be the treasurer and not even share information. Like, you have to tell people what's going on.
Right.
It's money, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
like all of us, we don't want anyone messing with our money. So I think that it would be best, so now I have to slow walk him back and say, okay, at each turn, each person, this is what happened, and I don't know, is he gonna owe or whatever, but trust I'll be checking in with the state on that and HUD as well.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Something's gotta be done.
Is it possible for me to talk? I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Hi, this is Julie Hebert. I came in late to the meeting, so I'm sorry if I missed some of it. But I was the one that sent in, I think, the paper that you guys have, the acknowledgement of the HOA. Do you guys have that?
Yes. I'm not laughing, but I just made that laugh because Greg referenced that in the meeting before you came on. So
I will say that when I look back on my records, when we were first interested in buying a lot in Stonegate, that document was also sent out as part of like the package with like the standard purchase and sale and everything else that went along with it. So I don't know if people who bought their house secondhand have that document, but I'm pretty sure like everybody who had it at the time, like Veronica said, that was like a standard document that everybody bought and everybody signed off on. Like, I mean, at least when I was buying, we bought our house in 2011. So that is there, and that was a big piece of selling the house, was that, you know, hey, it's in development and it's changed hands, but there won't be any fee that's charged to you until everything is completed. That was like an assurance that we were given when we were buying the houses. So.
Thank you, Julie.
So Julie, I'm gonna say, Julie, I think hopefully you were here at some point when Veronica introduced herself. So if you need to talk to her, we can get you her contact information too, or we can have her reach out to you too.
Yeah, great, definitely. Well, we had a little like group chat to try to get a meeting with Veronica that we didn't get to have yet, but I definitely have her info. And yeah, we'll catch up with her afterwards.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Well, just so you guys know, I want to meet with the Stonegate Landing families, but I wanted them to get to this meeting first. I thought this was super important.
Yes.
And it would not have been a good use of everyone's time if we met beforehand and we're just trying to figure things out. So now we've heard everything, and now they can actually think about what's needed, and I can give more information to the families. So I think that's why I moved you guys' meeting, because I was like, I wanted to make sense for you all.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Of course, no problem. All right. Is there a motion on the table to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
That's the second motion he's made tonight.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, Zachary Karen.
Hi, Greg Logan.
Hi, Elise Vincent.
Aye, David Phillips.
Hi, Jonathan Gale.
There we go. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.